industry. And when we started going out, of course, the cotton exports were not allowed, but the yarn was. And therefore, the difference that came in between the two was profits, on the basis of which the entire growth of the textile industry took place. But as time went on, obviously that gap narrowed, because everybody woke up to the subject, and farmers started asking for international prices, and therefore the margins started getting more and more squeezed. We came to a point where it was only on fractions of cents that people were competing, both within the country and outside, and particularly in our exports. And therefore, the push to move on and move further up the ladder. There were some people who adapted to this, and some people who did not. And we are still in the state where there are some people who are, some textiles that are really not necessarily at the cutting edge, but nevertheless are more in sync with the world. And many of us are contented with doing whatever kind of takes place on a day-to-day basis. So what is needed here is that in this competing world where we are, textile is still the largest export, and though there is a push for diversification of exports, nevertheless it's still a mainstream, will remain so for quite some time. My predecessor, I know, once said in a parliamentary committee, the days of textile are over and we have to start looking at other things. Of course, we have to start looking at other things if days of textile are not over. So we have to make sure that our textile industry is competitive. And it will remain competitive only if we meet all the requirements. Now, our biggest markets, be it the EU or the US, they have started imposing new and more stringent conditions, some related to the subject and some totally unrelated. Areas that are unrelated, like on the human rights side, on the labor side, on a few other things, one can legislate and move forward. But when it comes to textiles, of course, the environmental protection is getting to be more and more stringent. And the conditionalities are tougher, and the compliance is actually required and monitored. And that's where I think the industry really has to now come up to it. The concept of track and trace, which is still nascent here, where they want to see from cotton production all the way up to the final garment manufacturing, women's rights, labor rights, whatever processes are used, how they are disposed of, and so on, now is becoming the need of the hour. It's not something that you do because it's a nice thing to do. It is something that you do because you know that if you don't do them, if not today, then tomorrow, your exports will stop. So it makes sense from your own bottom line profit and loss statement that you start investing in that area, both collectively and individually. The governments are there to help, but governments are very poor at monitoring things also. If you are a big, powerful textile magnate, textile inspector, the labor inspectors or environmental inspectors are really not your challenge. Your challenge is when you go out in the export in a market which is not willing to take things for granted and is looking at you from a magnifying glass. I think it's time for us to change. I think having given that background, we would really like to learn what are the steps that are being taken. Of course, what should be taken, you will learn from the experts. But what the industry is doing is really what is important. How far are we working and putting our energy and effort and resources to make sure that we are compliant. So I think I'll open the floor now and follow this flow that we have. We have a lot of speakers, so I hope we are able to do it in time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Before we request our speakers and participants at the roundtable, I would like to request Ms. Adriana Zacharias, Head of Gopher SDGs, United Nations Environment Program, who has joined us from Nairobi online for her opening remarks. Over to you, Adriana.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me well.
Sorry, IT team, we cannot hear her.
Can you hear me? Oh, no. I can hear you well. Well, you cannot hear me.
Yes, Adriana.
I'm here, and let me see what's happening. Headphone microphone, yeah.
No, she's not muted. I think.
Can you hear me now? Hello.
All right. We can wait for Adriana, but in the meanwhile, we can start with the roundtable discussion. I'd request the IT team to quickly fix the issue, please. So we'll start with the roundtable discussion now. And before I start the roundtable, I would request every participant to also introduce yourself and your organization before answering or responding to the questions. So I'll start with one question, and you all will be requested to share your perspective on the question. So the question is, what specific challenges and opportunities arise in the integration of circular practices within Pakistan's textile industry, particularly concerning the garment design? And no matter from which part of the industry you belong to, how do you see this transition in the next 4 or 5 years? So I will start with Mahek Masood.
Okay. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. This is Mahek Masood. I am heading the Sustainability and ESG department at Artistic Milliners, and we are one of the top exporters of denim manufacturers in Pakistan. And also we have a vertically integrated system. To have the questions, the challenges. Number one challenge is as we have already explained that we have to be competitive, but here we want to tell that our industry is in this competition regional wise, and also now we are going this, you know, the other regulations, EU regulations and US border custom regulations. So also there are other challenges in place at a global level now. So if we are not competitive, then we are not in the business. So I would say, like on behalf of the sector, that we are very competitive in that perspective. Circularity, and it's a need of ours, and the concept is new with the industry. But at the same time, one of the challenges which I foresee while working in the sector is that there's a lot of need to have some. It's something is happening. It's in a very rapid manner. It's like there's no guided and structured directions for to have circularity in textiles. It's like it's happening, but circularity is a very old concept. It's been happening. We do have circular models in Pakistan as well, and also at a global level, that whatever we are, it's in the reusing process, that one garment is being reused, you know, from generations, and it pass it on. That's the definition of a circular model, closing the loop in that way. But the main challenge at the moment is that we really need to regulate that, how we can structure it in a way that it will be helpful. It will also include not just garment manufacturing, but all the supply chains. For example, now our brands are asking us to do our traceability and LCAs and how you are getting it, the raw materials. So we need to design on the circularity principles on every stage of the supply chain and all the stakeholders in the suppliers. And now coming back to our main challenges, like our suppliers down the lane. They are farmers, they are SMEs, they are people who really, they do understand. I always of the opinion that in an industry, we are working on doing recycling. Nothing goes out because it means business. The industry means business, and they have to, they are very keen on saving the money and getting the cost down. They really know about, they are doing it at their end, but we really need to structure that out. The structure is not there. We need to integrate that in every strata of our supply chain. That's the main challenge. And if the other economies which are going for even in the developing countries and developed countries, they worked on the ground levels to a bottom up approach. So that's really a challenge in that per se. And if we need to have a collaborative approach while working on it. Second one is the demands from our, being an exporters, we are working with the global brands. They are working on circularity, but there's additional pressure on exporters like us, and then we have a regional market in place if we don't provide them that model. But again, we need that a surety of business acumen as well, considering our current country conditions. It's something, if it's a lot of money to be invested in the R&D of product, if we want to develop a circular or maybe a net zero energy wise, a lot of things is done. Only one net zero product is developed in the global wise, and that's in New Zealand, and they worked on the bottom up approach from the farmers till that. Then they got that net zero product developed. So to develop a circular project, we really need to focus on these things, and also we need to be very relevant with the global demands and legislations coming up. And
Mehak, if I can request, keep it short so we can give chance to all the participants.
So that's my point so far.
Thank you. Well taken. So next we have Sapphire Finishing Mills representative, Rafal. So same question and your response, please.
Okay.
One question. Can you hear me now?
Sustainability at Sapphire Finishing Mills Limited. Coming to the question that Zainab asked, that the challenges that we're facing for circularity. For circularity, the main thing is that, like Mehak mentioned, that we already have a structure of circularity, and it's in the DNA of the Pakistan nation that we reuse our products, and it comes down from generation to generation. But if you talk about the textile industry and the other industries as a whole, it seems that this sector is not very formalized. Like, for example, if I have I need to recycle some product. So in Pakistan, the main thing is that we sell our waste. But if you talk about the European countries, they have to give money for the recycling part. And in Pakistan, when the commercial aspect comes in that waste management, in the circularity concept, then it's very difficult to actually be a responsible supplier, a responsible manufacturer that takes care of its circularity. Like I just said, that if we sell it off, and it becomes very difficult for us to make a commercial sense out of it. Even then, it comes on to the suppliers, comes on to the manufacturer's responsibility that we have to build an in-house recycling plant, and then we have to work on it. Because being a vertical setup, we do have some recycling. We have worked on recycling plants, and we, our pre-consumer waste, our post-consumer waste, we have to recycle it on our own, because when it goes out of the system, then it's not very organized, and it's very difficult to recycle it back into our system so that the product can be of that similar quality that it used to be. So the thing is that the main challenge what I see is the informalness of this sector, and other points Mehak already quite elaborately mentioned. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We also have Mr. Rehan Bharara. Do we have him? Yeah. Yes, please hand over the mic to him, sir.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, tamam participants. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I actually reached from Faisalabad. I'm Chairman Faisalabad Government City, sir. Thank you very much. There are five points. Please tell me where to start because I reached little late.
So, sir, the question that I posed is, how can circularity be transitioned in the Pakistan textile industry, not just particularly in one sector, but within different sectors? And how do you see it in next 4 to 5 years?
Okay. Thank you very much. The shift towards circular practices like recycling, upcycling already from Sapphire is discussed about that, can create new jobs in these areas, contributing to the local economy. By adopting circular models, Pakistani textile manufacturers can position themselves as leaders in sustainable production, appealing to a global market, increasingly conscious of the environmental impact. Also, if we go in other than the for our exports, we are actually stuck on the same qualities which we are doing from last 30 to 40 years. If we talk about the other countries like India, like Bangladesh or Vietnam or China, they have actually changed, totally shift to the higher end qualities, which we didn't. That's why if we talk about Pakistani economy, we are now facing a problem of energy crisis, but we are talking always that our energy prices are getting high. But if we are making a product like a 500 thread, more than 500 thread or 1200 thread, the impact of the energy cost will be minimized for that. Like if we are talking about what we are making nowadays, 200 thread, it costs like 30% of the energy prices in that cost. If we go up to 1,000 threads, that can be reduced to 5 to 7%. So this is what we have to change our mindset, which we are not changing. This is one point what I feel is. And the other is that industry is not getting partnerships with the universities or with the people who are doing advanced studies on that. So this is what we have to focus on that. Also, with the best practices, I think, in that to change the economy, the government industry dialogue facilitate regular dialogue between the government industry players to align goals and strategic for circularity. Unfortunately, our system is not giving us the space to get benefit of the policies of the government. Unfortunately, all policies made by the big groups. There is no one, I mean, in any kind of any committees or any where the strategic the decisions are making, there is no one from SMEs. You can see all even the day before yesterday, a council built for the economy revival, but unfortunately, all are the big shots. They didn't know the big groups. Like I don't want to name it, but Sapphire didn't know what a small company which have only 200 employees, how he can survive in these circumstances.
So Mr. Rohan, we have another round of questions.
Yeah,
so, but the point well taken, and I think we are going towards right direction now. So, Ms. Farheen Zahur from AGI Denim. So your last comment on the question, and then I'll move to next question. After that, we have also proposed a solution. Dr. Anil Salman and his team, they're here to discuss economically beneficial solution for this in context of degrowth and circularity. So, but before that, I would like
can you hear me?
To represent AGI Denim and also to answer the question, please. Mike, please.
Farheen Zahur, I'm representing AGI Denim as head of strategy, ESG and sustainability. AGI Denim is Pakistan's one of the top exporters of denim and jeans, and we are in the business since last 30 years. Circularity is not a word new to us. We installed our first textile waste recycling plant way back in 2016, and we were the first one. And that gave us a very competitive advantage as compared to Bangladesh and China, because they were figuring it out the solution, and we installed a plant. So I think in order to maintain the competitive advantage, we need to take action. Is the need of the time, as Mehak and my other fellow colleagues said, and we can channelize the transition. There are many ways, because the other countries or competitive countries have worked a lot. So we can take their studies and their findings and apply on them. We definitely see that the circularity or the future belongs to circularity. Why? Because EU is passing a legislation on waste. It is coming in 2025 or later in 2027, where we all will be impacted because our bread and butter will be at stake. So we need to incorporate recycled content to an extent in our products so that we remain competitive. However, we need to focus on developing innovative products, developing regulations, and incentivize the whole process so that not only the large manufacturers who have the muscle to invest, but our medium and small enterprises can also take advantage of it with the help of government or other collaborative partners. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The first round of questions from the textile industry. Before taking the next round, I would now request Adriana. I think the issue has been resolved for her remarks from United Nations Environment Programme. Over to you, please, Adriana.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you. And IT team, please, if you can increase the volume.
Yes, I'm going to speak loud as I can. So I hope you can hear me now. So apologies for the technical issue. That's what happens sometimes with the virtual participation. Well, on behalf of UN Environment Programme, I'm very happy to be here. I'm not going to welcome you because we have already started, but I'm really happy that we are having this conversation. Sorry, there is an echo there.
No, we can hear you properly, loud and clear.
Okay. Perfect. So I'm glad I have already started to hear some of the comments that you are providing. And basically our key message here is to highlight, and I want to talk about the importance of the textile sector and the environmental impact, and the work that we are doing from the UN Environment Programme to bring circularity in the sector. I heard what the chair was mentioning, the need to move, and what you are saying, the last intervention is very relevant. And just to say, we need to move, and this will bring also competitiveness. So circularity and sustainability should not be seen as an obstacle to the growth of the sector. So from our perspective, just first I want to give an overview on why are we doing that? Why is this important to move from a linear to a circular economy in the textile industry? And we know that worldwide, the textile industry is one of the largest one. It generates $1.5 trillion revenue per year and provides one of the highest, a high level of employment. We know that worldwide, 1/8 of 8 workers are working in the textile industry or in the related services. However, we cannot ignore that the conditions of the workforce are not ideal. Many of them are working on their underpayment or with not a good working environment, with health risk and abuse. We know that women represent 68% of the workforce in the textile industry, and they are also vulnerable. So that's why the social aspects are also of our concern from the UN environment, from the UN system, I would say. And now, as you are saying, besides these issues, the textile sector is also facing the environmental impact. We in UNEP, we are talking about the triple planetary crisis, that is climate change, is biodiversity loss and pollution. And the textile sector represents a big share of these environmental impacts. When we are looking at water consumption, for example, you all know the huge level of water that is used. Globally, we are talking about 215 trillion liters of water that are being used annually. And also the sector is responsible of 9% of the microplastics that end up in our oceans. At the same time, now that we are going to COP, we also know that the textile industry is responsible of 8% of the greenhouse emissions. So that's another key thing to look at. And let me now, so I think we all know about these issues. Now, what are we doing? We are now providing evidence-based science on the need to move from a circular linear to a circular economy in the textiles. We are very happy to announce that UNEP is working now in this shift with to circularity. We are working closely with the Global Fashion Agenda and UNEP Go for SDG. We carried on a global consultation last year to set, and that might be interesting for you, we want to work with the fashion industry to have targets, global targets that will be looking at social issues, environmental protection, and circularity. We did this consultation in 5 regions. Asia Pacific was part of this consultation. And what are the key priorities that we have identified was the need to shift towards sustainable consumption patterns, improve the practices in the production, but also very important to invest more on the necessary infrastructure. So investment and infrastructure is key. And I'm glad you are also mentioning the benefits of circularity. We have done analysis also showing that the shift to circularity can also bring economic gains. And globally, we are talking that these gains could be about $700 billion that could be gained, and also that 1% increase in the market share on circularity could reduce significant emissions of CO2. Now, we should not ignore the need to also look at the demand side. And from UNEP, we are working also on the behavior change of consumers. You might have seen that we are now in a fast fashion the world with everything is just disposable, and sadly the fashion, the clothes are disposable. Now, I'm happy to share with you 2 projects that UNEP is doing in Pakistan, particularly in Pakistan, and also I think it has been already mentioned, and something that was very new for me to learn is that Pakistan is one of the biggest importers of used textiles, right? So in this regard, we are working in 2 projects. One is on used textiles, and the second one is in the use of chemicals and pollution in the textile industry. On the used textiles, as I mentioned, you being one of the leading importers of textiles, and that represents great value, economic value, but also it's increasing in volume. You might have noticed that sometimes a great concern is that the clothes that is entering and the textile that is entering to your country doesn't meet the minimum criteria to be reused or recycled. And then what you are doing is just getting more problems and troubles, because you need to then manage these textiles, bring it to a landfill or incinerate it, and then it is generating the environmental impact in your country. So in other words, this could be a dumping policy, a trade policy, just dumping textile in your country. So in this regard, we are working with your government in setting global guidelines and criteria to determine the suitability of trade products as used textiles. So I think that's really important to have clear criteria, so to avoid that you are receiving basically waste. And the second project we are doing is related to the chemical pollution. As we know, in the sector is one of the major user of the toxic called forever chemical, which is very polluting for the environment and human health. You might know that this technique of the textile wet processing is using 600 grams per 1 kilo of clothes that is produced. So the amount of chemicals is really high. And in this regard, we are working to provide capacity building technical support to SMEs and manufacturing to use and improve the knowledge on the chemicals and ideally also to phase it out. So that's the work concretely that we are doing. And then globally, we are also working with we have just launched this year the playbook on communication, sustainable fashion communication. This is to producers, to markets, to different influencers, social media, also to do an effort, not only on the production side that you are doing, but also to look at the demand and say how we can also change the consumers to have a more sustainable behavior and help the shift to sustainability. So I want to stop here. I'm going to stay online to listen to your conversation and again just want to strengthen our support as UNEP. I want to also acknowledge our great collaboration and our appreciation to the support of the Sustainable Development Pakistan Institute. And we are looking forward to strengthening our partnership and to listen to you, the challenges and solutions where we might be able also to support. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Adriana, for sharing the initiatives and for always supporting such initiatives in Pakistan, and also for your support to go to STPI team. So with this, the next round of questions. So since textile sector is also interconnected with, it's an entire value chain, and the interconnectedness is also with the packaging industry, and we have representatives from the packaging industry as well. So achieving circularity is not possible if the entire value chain is integrated within this process. So for this, I would like to pose this question: how do you see, being a representative from packaging industry, the transition to one of the export-oriented sectors, which is textile, in Pakistan? So I'd start with you, Aisha. Over to you. Mike, please. Aisha.
Thank you so much, Zainab. And yes, I was wondering when I was invited for this panel that what am I doing here? Because I'm not from the textile sector. But there are lots of similarities between packaging value chain and also between the textile value chain, like you mentioned. When you talk about circularity, we've been reading about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, but every year there's a new R added to that. And maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe there are now 10 R's. So what we need to do is we need to build a lot of awareness, as it is with the packaging waste. It's the same thing with textile waste as well. We need to build awareness on reusing and reducing, and also acceptance in the consumers for using recycled clothing. As Adriana mentioned, that Pakistan is the largest importer of used textiles. We need to have more infrastructure in place for sorting and for categorizing the waste that we collect, because when there's used textiles, fabrics or garments that are discarded from the first world countries and they're coming here, it's very difficult to sort them into different waste streams or different types of fabrics. So we need to have those systems, maybe use more technology to identify different types of materials over there. Then we need standards, just like in packaging waste, we need standards for reusing this material. And also, I think another important thing is that we need to do a lot of awareness in our communities, in our consumers, on the importance of reducing our own footprint on the environment. It's not only the fast fashion that has been very popular now because it's easily accessible, but that's causing the most waste as well. So maybe, I think that we need to redefine our business models. It's the same for a lot of industries, because, I believe that, if we don't, act now, we don't think in the favor of the planet, there is no other planet. So we need to really, really aggressively build campaigns around that. So people need to accept recycled packaging material. People need to accept reused, recycled fabrics as well. And they need to consciously think about making their own purchasing decisions?
Thank you, Aisha. So basically, living in Pakistan, and it's not just a case in Pakistan. So the working women specifically, they require garments and dresses on daily basis, and it's not just garment with women, also with men who are working. So the threat is there. But the waste that is being produced, that's a reality, and that is being dumped openly. We do not have proper landfills, and we are also importing the used textiles. I do understand many textile industries, they are now working to launch the recycled, I know Sapphire, I know Generation, I know some of the others. They're now working on repurposing fabric and also inviting their consumers to share the used dresses with them so they can recycle it. But I think the campaign around this kind of awareness is lacking at the moment. And the private sector is coming up with strategies, but the public sector is maybe they have to define certain policies to make it, make it mandatory, because waste is a very common problem and it's a big issue. So we have representative from All Pakistan Textile Mills Association, Mr. Umar Salim. So Umar, you have heard the narrative from textile industries. How do you see, if they want to move towards circularity transition, how do you see the transition in the role of APNA in this case? Over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zainab, and thank you, everyone. So I think the tone has been quite aptly set for the session. And I would say, first of all, for the first question, and I will come on to this question as well, that what is the challenge right now? So I think measuring circularity in Pakistan, that is one of the biggest challenge. I don't want to be that academic because Dr. Anil Salman Sahab is here for that. So it's his forte. So why do we need circularity in textiles or any other industry? So we want to make things more sustainable. We want to make things last longer. And when we talk about why do we do that, or how could we do that? We can do that by making the most efficient use of resources. So up until now, in academic, in literature, and in practice as well, so there is a representation of textile on a linear sort of a model. Like we have cotton, which is a resource, and then we went into spinning, and then obviously weaving, and so on and so forth. So it is a linear sort of a representation of the whole industry. So what is the aim of circularity here? So aim of the circularity here is that we need to convert this linear representation into a circular representation, where we can say that at the end of the day, when I'm no longer wearing this coat, this is not going to be waste. Maybe this is going to be converted into another product. So here the role of consumer become very important. As Aisha mentioned, that there are 3 R's. So I have noted down for like 6 R's maybe, which is refuse. It is all the responsibility of the consumers, I think. So first refuse, and then reduce your usage, and then don't go or don't fall into the fast changing fashion trends, and then reuse if you can. I mean, if there is some still breathing left in the garment, and then repair. Obviously, we have been seeing a lot of initiatives coming up in Pakistan. For example, there is this website which is you might have heard, based out of Faisalabad, ELO, export leftovers. So that's what you can't export, and then you can sell in the Pakistani market. And then there is repurpose. So one thing which is not in use for as a shirt, so you may repurpose it into something else, maybe some drawing on the wall, maybe if you like it that much. And then recycle, obviously. So coming back to my first point, that how do we measure circularity? So literature shows, and we are also adopting this approach, and we are also, creating awareness on this behalf on the Aptima platform, that how do we do that? How do we measure circularity? So one approach is a life cycle assessment approach. For life cycle assessment approach, I mean that there is this resource, cotton, and then even upstream sectors, even fertilizer going into the cotton industry, even water going into the cotton industry, energy going into the cotton industry. And then we have in the middle of the column, we have all of these supply chain, the making of yarn and weaving and designing and whatnot. And then at the end of the day, we have waste. So which is being fed into soil, number one, which is being fed into water, and which is being fed into air. So how do we do that? I mean, we can do through life cycle assessment approach, and by life cycle assessment, I mean that we have to quantify the exact amount of the waste going into the soil and water and air. And when I say that life cycle assessment approach, then the literature also tells us, and that's again we are doing through our policy papers from Aptima, that there is a nexus approach in we can adopt within the life cycle assessment. So, for example, for textile, we can adopt this resource, energy, water nexus approach. So what resource, it's becoming a little technical, I know, but this is how we do it. There's no easy way of saying it, and there is no other way of saying or doing it. So resource, energy, water nexus. So what does it tells us? It tells us that the resource energy interaction indicates that the waste of the resource, which is cotton waste, which is cotton crop waste. It is a waste of the resource. So it can be utilized as biomass energy, right? So, and the resource water interaction indicates that the agricultural products and water have an association with the ecosystem. So all the parts of this nexus are interlinked. So the arrow is going forward and going back as well. So, and then the energy resource interaction shows that an extensive amount of energy is required to process the produce, and by the processing of winning and weaving. The energy water interaction shows that the energy is required to heat, boil, and process the water during the textile industrial process. So this is the life cycle assessment approach. I mean, we can go into nitty-gritties or into more technicalities in the informal session, but this is how we do that. So we need to have a sense of, I think, sense of the thing, that what is circularity, how it leads to sustainability, why we need sustainability, and first of all, we need to understand that we need to quantify the whole.
So Umar, my question would be, how will Aptima do this?
Yeah.
Take the lead for the textile industry if they are interested in this transition? You have heard them. So what is going to be Aptima's response?
Okay, so Aptima, obviously, it's an association, and we basically work as a linkage or as a bridge between the private sector and the government, right? So I think right now there might be 3 drivers of change. That's what Aptima is doing right now. I mean, through its policy papers and through certain webinars and seminars, and even, I mean, obviously informal sessions with industry. There are 3 drivers of change at this point, and which can be taken as a priority actions by the industry. So Aptima alone is nothing. I mean, obviously, Aptima, when I say Aptima alone is nothing, because Aptima is being fed by the industry, and then Aptima, takes that industry's demand towards the government, and then
so you'll be taking the demand towards the government, right?
Obviously, that's what we do. I mean, like we will be doing that. And as I was mentioning, the 3 drivers of priority action. So first is,
sorry if I can intervene. Sure, I think sir, today Aptima is government. Your Minister for Textile is your former boss, so you can't say that you will take it to government. You're there. Now what do you do?
Yeah, so we are there, as Naveed sir mentioned. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Apologies for the tough time.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But that is why we have this roundtable with the industry. So industry, public sector, we do understand the gap is still there from if we talk about public and private sector. But there's another huge gap that is between academia and industry. And there are solutions, really great solutions from academia, but they're not being scaled up. So we have a team from, we have Dr. Anil Salman and his colleagues. We also have Dr. Amna Farooq, who specializes in circularity. So Dr. Amna, if you can also share your perspective, but I request you to keep it a bit short so we can have the presentation from colleagues from Islamabad Policy Research Institute. Mike, please.
Okay. 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 So I think that circularity actually tells us that nothing is a waste. Everything must go somewhere. This is the basic fundamental, whether it's in any sort of industry, whether it's plastic, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's leather, whether it's textile. So I think this is the basic fundamental. And if we learn that fundamental, then I think we will be able to sort out the solutions. So solutions can be in many forms, both from internally and external perspective, which I think so far, whatever the literature I have gone through. So obviously from the internal perspective, industry, which is my opinion, that we have to learn about the integrated business strategies. For example, we have very good strategies in Pakistan, like lean manufacturing, Six Sigma methodology, and green manufacturing we are doing. So I think if we integrate these three strategies, so it's a beautiful combination, which gives us many solutions, rather than just only focusing on technology and these things, because in Pakistan, we have also lack of resources in terms of, financial resources. So if we learn to integrate these strategies, so I think it will solve many problems, especially in the post, pre-consumer waste, which is post-industrial waste in any sort of, company, whether it's textile. So in addition, if I talk about the external strategies or something like that, so I think we need to involve the consumer. Consumer understanding should be, most. For example, last week, I went to J daughter, I asked her, she asked me a feedback. So I said, why don't you standardize the designs in these things? Because my PhD was from New Zealand, so I've learned this thing that in packaging or plastics, they are focusing on standardization. So why don't we standardize the designs of these things? So definitely we can come over the waste. And we need to give the awareness to consumer that please accept this. Do not come every second day for the new designs and fast fashion. So I think that is the thing. And we should take this initiative towards the academia also. We need to target the young generation. We need to target the, the females or women who's asking more. So I think this should be the two sides of coin. So other than that, we need to involve other stakeholders. For example, we have very good organizations in terms of development sectors or think tanks like STPI and GIZ, who is working very good in Pakistan from the textile, circularity. So I think if we also involve them, so we can address the circularity issue, whether in terms of industry, because as Aisha has said, that what is the interlinkage between the plastics and circular and textile. So I think the fundamentals are same of sustainability and circularity. We can apply it into any industry, and the nature of this industry is a process industry. So these principles can also be applied in pharmaceutical and leather, which I think that in coming years we will be also having a round table discussion on these issues on pharmaceutical industry as well. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amna. So if I can request the IT team for the presentation, and also the colleagues from IPRI, Basit, if you can present the solutions. And circularity is not focused on one particular sector. This is something that needs to be adopted in different sectors. And for that, obviously, we need policy regulations on circularity, and we are hopeful that over next few years, we'll be able to get the policy regulations that support circular economy transition. Over to you, Basit.
No, this is not the one I'm asking for. So basically, we have written a paper on sustainable future, prioritizing degrowth for economic and social well-being in Pakistan. So basically, we have seen that, yes, next please. Can we go next? Okay.
Next, please.
Thank you. Can you please?
I think you want to police it. It's not working.
So basically, that's fine, yes. So basically, degrowth purpose and its relevance in Pakistan. So basically, we have seen that degrowth is deliberate reduction in economic activity, emerge as pathway towards social well-being and environmental stability, aiming to strike the balance between economic growth and sustainability. This recalibration prompts us to redefine success, moving beyond a GDP-centric approach towards a more holistic assessment of well-being, fairness, and environment health. Next, please. Degrowth. So degrowth is basically going beyond the pursuit of economic growth. It's a paradigm shift, reimagining success through a lens of societal well-being, fairness, and environmental health. By moving away from sole reliance on GDP-centric measure, it challenges conventional model of development and champions a more inclusive and sustainable approach. So degrowth strategies, basically, we have seen that we have certain like 4 degrowth strategies. Number one is, expanding renewable energy sources. So educating for solar and wind power stands a spiritual strategy to reduce dependency on non-renewable fuels, fostering a sustainable energy landscape. The second one is green taxation and subsidies. So encouraging eco-friendly practices through incentivization and tax create a supportive framework for sustainable behaviors. Number third is government regulation and planning. Setting policies for sustainable consumption, production, and resource management become imperative to embed sustainability across sectors. And number fourth is creating collaborative networks and partnerships. Engaging diverse stakeholders, government, academia, NGOs, and community is the key to ensuring effective implementation. So next one is challenges, like how we can find some challenges to implementation of degrowth. Number first challenge is changing the mindset. So basically it is a shift from prioritizing economic growth to sustainability poses us significant challenges in altering societal perspective. Number second is employment impact. Of course, when we apply a degrowth strategy, we have some addressing potential job displacement in certain sectors, necessitate proactive measures. And number third, and the most important, is political will and leadership. So overcoming opposition and initiating bold steps require unwavering political will. Next, please. So we have some case studies. Of course, one is from Kerala, which is in a state of India. So they are, adopting a degrowth strategy. So there is a state called Kerala. So Kerala emphasizes on social well-being, where per capita income showcases the efficacy of prioritizing education, healthcare, and societal welfare. And the second case study is actually SDG and beyond GDP. Rethinking measure of economic progress in moving beyond confines of GDP and policy making are critical steps in fostering sustainable development. To sum up, Balancing economic growth with sustainability through embracing degrowth is pivotal for more sustainable future. Overcoming challenges, political will, education, and awareness holds a key to successful implementation. And then quote for reflection. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So, sir, we are still left with half an hour. If you would like to ask anything from our respected participants.
Why don't I give my perspective and then perhaps generate a
Debate, okay.
Debate.
Sure.
Okay. From here only, right?
Sure, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think this has been enlightening debate. However, there are certain things with which I totally agree and certain things with which I don't agree at all. And let's go my perspective on things. First of all, when we sit here and talk to the textile industry, and then we talk about recycling of garments, for example, products, both mainly imported because we have very little domestic recycling. You're talking to a wrong group of people. The other people who are trying their best to come up with new questions every season, not even every year, so that they can sell more of what they're producing. And how would you incentivize them to reverse that process? The fact that there is a huge import of recycled garments means that there's a huge market in Pakistan. However, rather than asking the industry to change their methods and try and trace where the garments have gone, there is a need to create a whole new industry. Because it's only the profit motive that will move people into doing this, not regulation, not more inspectors, but market forces. I clearly believe, yes, we do not give enough incentive. For example, this entire industry is not even recognized as a proper industry. So it needs to be recognized as an industry. And we need to go a notch or two up on that. Recycling is something which is not common. But then let me tell you that when I was studying in England and later in California, there was no such thing as organized recycling. So you always have to start from somewhere. True, that it is not organized at all. So not just the awareness, but the tools for that, and after the tools, the incentives for that. There is a huge market for waste worldwide, including in this country. We all know that. We can be converting waste to energy, we could be converting waste to product, the packaging industry. I've never seen anyone drop an item on the shelf that, no, this is recycled packaging, therefore I will not take this product, I'll take. No. There is an acceptance that once that packaging, for example, is recycled and resold in a different format, people will buy it. In fact, they may feel good. Most of them don't feel good about it. They just buy it because it's there. You have not given them a choice. You have said, here's my product. If you like my product, I'll give it to you in a recycled packaging. Which is fine, which is good for the country, good for the environment, good for your profits. So I think there is no resistance on that. On, for example, the government side, yes, there is resistance because people have their concepts of where does this come from, what is the entire history of it, did the person die in this piece of garment, and then will his disease be transmitted and so on. So there, again, it's primarily the private sector that has to come in and not only sort it out and then I won't say refurbish it, but nevertheless at least upgrade it and then market it properly. Give the entire history of the garments. and you'll make more profit based on that. So while we talk about being environmentally better and so on, we also have to say that this is more cost effective and easier on consumers' pockets. While we are competing with these people, or whoever will be doing it, will be competing with possible the government city or wherever else these products are being made. But it's worthwhile because it's a parallel market. It's not necessarily a competing market. Having said that, then a number of issues. I think it was mentioned in Adriana's discourse that the consumption of water is something that needs to be monitored. As a farmer, I know that cotton is the most water conservative crop. Look at the competing crops. Rice takes multiple times more water than cotton does. Sugarcane takes even more. Even corn does. So there are three immediate competing crops with cotton. And people grow cotton only when they have scarce water, not if they have abundant water. Pakistan is a hugely water-stressed country. And coming from the lowest riparian districts of the country, I know what kind of an explosive issue this is. But there are other reasons why people don't switch to cotton. Because as long as cotton is made economically feasible, because cotton is susceptible to a lot of pest attacks and so on, and even weather patterns, wrong rains, and the entire crop is destroyed. So as long as people are incentivized, and of course, a big issue for us is the seed and the varieties and so on, is something that our academia has been working on, but somehow the match between the Bayer and Monsantos of this world and our consumption somehow is not coming through as yet. I think this is something that the government in NEPTMA and others have to work on. Some people can afford to import the cotton, but many others can't, and the quality of cotton also. The long staple is still something that is not very common in Pakistan, and the industries need that. We can only produce so much of denim. After that, you have to go into higher counts. And I totally agree that I think that the time has gone where we would ask for cheaper energy. There is no such thing. At least for some foreseeable future, we will see high energy costs. So the only way out of that is that you make more profits with lower consumption of energy, electricity or gas. And that will come only if we start going higher in the value chain. And that's again a challenge for the industry. Those who don't adapt to these things and still would push for lower energy costs, competing energy costs and so on, good luck to them, but I don't see that happening given Pakistan's current economic conditions and the IMF program. So adapt, please. Let's not be dinosaurs. If we adapt, we'll make money, we'll make profits. And as we have all said, the GSP program, again, something which is very important for the industry. The rollover of 3 years that we got this year is in a way seen as a blessing that we've got 3 more years. But what will come at the end of those 3 years will be new conditions. Are we prepared for those? Because now European producers are starting to worry about this. And they will put in such conditions. I think somebody talked about it over here. They will put in such conditions that if you are not environmentally efficient, if you are not good at both the chemical-based issues as well as some of the recycling, all of these things, then you will not be allowed the concessions which make it feasible for you to export. So it's very important. Now, most of these issues are to be handled by the private sector themselves. I think where the government comes in, and government does have an important role, is as facilitator. I mean, this whole idea of chemical waste. Yeah, in bits and pieces, we are doing that. The Export Development Fund has been used in Karachi, in Sialkot, in some other areas, both for leather as well as for the ultimate finished textiles. But more needs to be done. And in order to do that, both the industry and the government need to collaborate on that. The government should provide the funding, the private sector should manage that at the end of the day. So, having said that, I think I've said more than I had planned on saying, but there are a lot of things that can be done to bring us from where we are to where we want to be. And all of those will bring more money in your pockets. So let's not do it as a measure of goodwill alone. Let us do it because it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a positive message. And although we are facing some very unusual and in these uncertain times, the challenges are huge for the industry specifically. So I think that what needs to be done is the public, private, academia collaboration at all levels. Blaming some industry for causing pollution or tagging some industry for taking the lead on climate is not going to work. We have to work together. So with this, I would request the participants here. We also have representative from Pakistan Business Council, Ms. Nazir Sheikha. We'll take your comment and then the participants to share one-liner on it could be your remarks on what the chair of the session has shared, or it could be a way forward on what Pakistan can do collectively as a nation to achieve this transition and to come out of the crisis. Yes, Ms. Nazish, over to you, please.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be part of this session, and thank you for your comments, Naveed Saab. As Zainab said, I represent the Pakistan Business Council here. I head the Center of Excellence in Responsible Business, and circularity is something that is very close to our heart, and it's one of our targets to look at right now and in the future. But one thing that I would encourage all of the participants here is to start measuring whatever they're doing, and measuring, it's only, when we measure, it's only then we can manage. I think a lot of the discussion by the textile sector shows that there is a lot of measuring happening, but it's measuring and then reporting. So these are two areas that need to be looked at. And the other thing that I think the partnership with academia is very important as well, because that's where, the innovation and the solutions will come. Because of, the tight budgets, we can't all have our own R&D departments in organizations, and the budgets aren't there. But in encouraging the partnership with academia can push this idea forward. I'll just give you an example. I think 2 years ago, we had a webinar in which we invited somebody from University of Faistabad to talk about the banana fibers. And in that panel discussion, somebody from Interloop Limited was there as well. So then, that interaction led to conversation, and then that conversation led to their exploring of banana fibers to add to their garments. So this collaboration, there are multiple solutions, I think, in the academia. I think we should be focused more on listening to what those solutions that are there and then taking them forward. So these are two of my comments.
Thank you so much, Nazish. And indeed, the initiative of banana fibers, we held a hackathon on food security in Naveed Saab, and they are the first winning team. They're a startup and they're taking an initiative on banana fibers and reusing them and recycling them, replacing the other resources that cause waste, and they're the winning team of the hackathon. So Dr. Anil, it's a pleasure you're here with us, and your team shared some insightful presentation on how the overall economic trend can be shifted to achieve not just the degrowth can be useful for this transition, but also to achieve some progress in these challenging times. So what is your perspective on the debate that you have heard?
Thank you very much, Zainab, for inviting. I'll just make 3-4 comments on it. Number one, that when we imagine the shape of progress, we put a proxy of growth with it. And it's the same metaphor that when you look at a baby who starts crawling, it will move backward, forward, and then stand, forward, and upward. And in this simile, what we are saying that the baby is growing when it's an exponentially, the number is increasing in the terms of the years. Similarly, when we're looking at, and I'm not going to talk about the textile sector or particularly the pharmaceutical earning, but I'm just looking at the overall economy, that when we imagine the economy, we just see that if the economy is growing, if the GDP is growing, the economy is good. But that is a misplaced conception as we talk as of 2023. And this notion of degrowth emerges, which Basit just talked about. But let's revert back that for where this fetish for the growth comes in, and this is in 1930s when we start talking about this concept of GDP, and even in Pakistan as we talk of today, when we're looking at the economies, that okay, our GDP growth rate needs to be at 5%, 6%, and all of a sudden then there's another ticker that, oh, GDP is heating up, now let's go for GDP cooling. So in Pakistan also we face this boom and bust cycle. And all the credit goes to, everyone must have heard about this name of Rostow. Rostow, the stages of growth. And this economist actually gave us this concept that everything and anything in any economic system can be solved by growth. And if it is not being solved by growth, let's have more growth. And until that time, what we are doing is that we are doing this growth at the cost of environment. And then comes the concepts like Goldilocks economies. And if you have heard the story of Goldilocks, 3 bears and this girl, and basically we have this practical example from China that it is following this concept of Goldilocks economy when it has trickled down its GDP growth rate target, that like they say that we would like to grow at 8%, but we would like to stabilize our economy. We would like to control the inflation. We would like to have more employment. And the same thing which we talked about Kerala. So now economies have seen that the ultimate solution lies in the circularity. Even if you look at the 2022 Human Development Index, it was not just HDI, there was PHDI. So the economies which are doing very well in HDI, are they really doing good for the planet also? So they have given the PHDI, that is the Planetary Human Development Index. My third comment would be that in Pakistan, if you look at the GDP, like y is equal to c plus I plus g plus x minus m, you won't believe that in GDP in Pakistan, 96% is consumption. We are a consumption-oriented society, and we need to change the structure of our economy. And how we win these arguments. Whenever a bank wants to attract a consumer, it always say, I am going to give you a very high interest rate. Again, the growth concept. When we are looking at
politics, even the political parties, political leaders also attract by giving these notions of that in my tenure, I'm going to give you the high growth. And this is how we determine the success of any political party. And when we're looking at socially, we are also engaged with this growth fetish that we say that, okay, if I am going to have any business, if I'm going to have a house, let's have a big house. So we are very much entwined with growth. But the misconception in circularity also, what we heard today, that we are stuck up in these R's, recycle, reuse, all blah, blah, 7, 8 R's, but no. Circularity is not about R's. It's just a minor part. Circularity is more of two things. Number one is regeneration, and number two is redistribution. If these two components are there in our economy, we are on the path of circularity. And in order to do that, we already mentioned that there are certain strategies, but it is going to be a paradigm shift. It is not going to be a linear transition. So even if the companies in Pakistan, or even if the economic gurus also start talking about this concept of circular economy or the donut economics or the Goldilocks economics, what we have to understand that it is going to incur costs. It is not a costless path. So the government needs to be prepared that there has to be complete budget shifts when we are looking at Pakistani economy, because it's already a 96% consumption oriented and the 4% is just the remaining. So it's not an easy task. It's not a short-term goal. It has to be entwined into the vision of Pakistan economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil Salman. And yes, since circularity is much of a buzzword within the industry and within our country as well, so I think it will take time for the industry and for the masses to understand what it actually means. But we are glad we have people and experts like you, Dr. Amna, from the academia, from the think tanks to explore this further and to create awareness among the masses. Now it is up to the industry, whether it's public or private sector, whether they want to adopt a transformation pathway that leads towards circularity or a pathway that leads towards challenge that we are facing today. And if we are determined upon taking the same sort of transformation pathway, we are going to end up doing nothing. So I think this debate here was a very healthy debate today, and we have heard interesting perspectives. Rehan Saab, thank you so much for joining us from all the way from Faisalabad, and for your comments too. We are all gathering for lunch. We'll be networking with each other, and we'll be hearing more from our participants, and with the interesting initiatives that they're taking within their own industries and within their own sectors, and also how they can club or collaborate together to work efficiently and more effectively in this domain. So thank you all for your time, for your comments, and for joining us today for this very important debate. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
dedicated persons from Pakistan Agriculture Research Council have joined. And believe me, they are